This might have been the first time that people couldn't suspend that disbelief anymore of like, oh, they're not really hurting each other. Not that it's fake, but like, it's not, it's not, the violence isn't what it appears to be. Where like you couldn't do that here. Like,
No,
do you
yeah.
think that's the
I mean,
first time that people, go ahead.
I'm sure there was a few people out there, like Jim Ross even said, I'm sure there are people saying they know how to fall. Like, yeah, that's a pretty simplistic way of looking at it. Yeah, I think the human drama unfolding on live TV was really mesmerizing, and the fact that families are choosing to hand this moment and this match down to their children is something that made me change the way I looked at it, because for many years I almost resented it being the only thing that people wanted to talk about. And now, 27 years later, I'm so grateful that I was part of it, and that I've become part of people's. I guess you could say I was part of their childhoods anyway. But I think what really changed my thinking was realizing that 50% of the people who asked me about the match weren't even born when it took place.
Right.
And I don't know if there's another match out there that holds that same position in people's hearts. Certainly, there have been better matches, more classic, title matches,
Right.
but no one had ever seen anything like this. And I think when people do try something like this, it inevitably will be compared to the cell match, which you can't duplicate because there were so many factors that went into making it so memorable.
Talking about falling correctly, there's one point I think where I don't know if it's Jim Cornette or somebody says Mick kind of turned his body just in a way where like it hit the table like perfectly. Is
Yeah,
that was that an instinct? Is that instinctual? Did you kind of know, hey, I have to turn here on the way down?
I think it was instinctual because as I was in flight, I'm thinking, there's no way I'm surviving this. Even before I took flight, the truth is that when the Undertaker's music played, all I could think of was how I could gracefully climb down that cell without destroying my career. So I wanted no part of this, of being up on there. But I couldn't think of it. And so I stayed up there and faced the music. And, I did. Yeah. When I was flying through the air, I it had to have been instinctive. It had to have been instinctive because had I hit it flat instead of kind of rolling as I hit it,
Right.
I don't think I would have gotten up.
What was your pitch to Vince that allowed him to say, okay, you can do this stuff? Like, did it take some time? Was there a way that you pitched it where he finally had to
Uh,
say, fine?
the pitch was originally that we were going to do the choke slam, but neither the Undertaker or I felt like that cell was going to give way. I think the last thing I said to Undertaker before I went out was, "You might have to choke me, slam me 5 or 6 times before that cell starts to give way," because the image that I had seen in my head was that of Undertaker like stuffing me upside down, like into a rabbit hole, and that eventually I would have to like rotate my body and take the risk of landing from a high, from a quite a height. And then I just kind of threw into the mix, hey, what if I were to get thrown off the top of this thing? And I did such a sell job on Mr. McMahon that I convinced him. I said, hey, if I were to drop an elbow off this thing and the Undertaker moved, you'd let me do that, wouldn't you? And he went, well, I guess. And I said, it's going to be the same thing. And it was absolutely not the same thing. But I think that I convinced him I was going to be okay. And I think I convinced myself I was going to be okay, which is what I thought until I got up there. And then everything that I had foreseen took on a whole new, a whole new depth.
I thought this one thing this episode did was it kind of looked at the totality of this, of not just one night, but the cost of your style and going through that match kind of long term.
Yeah.
Um, where are things for you kind of health wise now? You know, how has that style, ended up affecting you kind of long term physically?
Yeah. Well, I'm doing much better than I was. I've lost almost 100 pounds in the last year. I had done that once before in 2016, and then, gradually put all the weight back on. So I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. I'm feeling better. A real game changer for me was having my right hip and my right knee replaced because I was having so much trouble. There was about 10 straight years of really bad pain, really bad, and I did not know that could get better. So when an orthopedic specialist looked at my x-ray, I actually felt a deep sense of relief because I saw that I wasn't imagining this. And the doctor even said, "This is the worst hip I've seen in 25 years. To be honest, I have no idea how you're still walking." And so to be given like a second lease on life by having my hip and knee replaced, um, it was a game changer. I'm walking better. I mean, I still walk with a pronounced limp. I'm out there on the road, telling my stories, and I put everything I can into my cameo videos and even my
Yeah.
interactions at Comic Cons so that I'm working on my brain. So I got off the stage in Boston, and I said to Chris Nowinski, who was the co-founder of the Concussion Legacy Institute, I said, "Chris, this might sound strange, but I feel like I'm getting better." And he said, "Mick, what you're doing on that stage is the best form of exercise for your brain." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, you're memorizing stories, you're also creating stories, and you're playing off the crowd. It's like gymnastics for your mind." So I very rarely missed a match. I mean, I think the few times I missed extended periods of time is where I could say, "All right, I need knee surgery. Can you write me off the show in 3 months?" And so I would never miss a booking. I did. Only missed two matches because of the cell match, and then I was back on the road,
Wow.
which probably wasn't smart, but in its own way, it's kind of commendable. Again, that's something that would be entirely different now. If this was 2025 instead of 1998, I would have been off the road probably for a month at least.
Yeah.
So we've learned a lot, but if I hadn't, if the match had been stopped like it would now, then there's no way this Dark Side of the Ring episode takes place. There's no interest in it from you. There's no one man show
So
based on one match, and I think I don't think I would have earned a place in people's minds as being, you know, one of the most important guys of the Attitude Era. Hell in a Cell hits you like a mallet to the consciousness.
Dark Side of the Ring is back.
He got brain damage for a wrestling angle on television.
It added to the storyline.
Dark Side of the Ring. New season premieres Tuesday, March 25th at 10 on Vice.
where do you think we are with hardcore, I guess, where, street fight kind of matches today? It feels like people are happy that kind of the blood is back in WWE a little bit because it just kind of adds that realism, but there's still that line of like gushing blood or, a spiked bat or shards of glass that still kind of makes people
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Is there a sweet spot, or is it just push the envelope and ask for forgiveness
No.
later?
I think we're at this. I think WWE has the sweet spot, which is to do it rarely, but in a meaningful way. I think WWE does it the right way by picking their times and spots to do something really impactful. So that when Cody Rhodes was busted open by John Cena and The Rock, it was really meaningful. There's still a time and a place for it, and I think we are at that sweet spot.
What's your thoughts on heel John Cena right now to see him, after 24, 20, whatever it is, 25 years, finally kind of go this route now?
I love it. I love it. He almost transformed. We were watching a replay of it at my house, and one of my kids goes, "He looks like a different person." He was the same guy. He physically the same guy he'd been 10 seconds before the final boss gave him gave him the order. But he like transformed in a way that you can't really describe. And I can't do it justice with my words. You have to see it to really appreciate it. I love it. And I have to believe there's part of him that's really relieved. You can't give a promo like the one he gave on Monday without believing 90% of what you're saying.
Yeah.
There were a couple people said it reminded them of the stuff I did in ECW, where I blamed the fans for expecting too much. And I'm not saying that he borrowed from me, just saying that's kind of a universal theme for
Yeah.
people who've been in the business for a long time. And I believe it's probably good for his mental well-being to have made that turn. And I'm sure in a year's time he'll be embraced. And I think it's also interesting that the same people who hated him for 20 years now love him, and a lot of the people who loved him are now heartbroken. So it's a dynamic that's not like anything I've seen before. I can't think of another heel turn that's been that meaningful. Maybe since Hogan in '96.
Yeah.
96. Yeah,
Yeah, Bash Week 96. Yep.
yeah.
Chelsea Green kind of paid a little homage to you in her last match with her outfit, with the shirt. Did you get a kick out of that to see her, kind of go that route?
I did, and behind the scenes story is that she checked in with me to see what I
I
thought
was gonna
about it,
ask, yeah.
and I said, "I love it. You have my blessing." I said, "Take a screenshot of this and show it to whoever you need to." And I specifically said, when she showed me the design for the Chelsea Green wanted shirt, I was like, "Tell WWE they can sell it. It's a great idea." And
Yeah.
she went out there, and I'm getting like they're not goosebumps, but it's that like electricity in your
Yeah.
scalp.
Yep.
I'm getting emotional. Like she really owned the moment. Like I have a photo of her on the ring apron, like glaring out at the crowd. And I just look at it every couple days to remind myself of what owning the moment looks like. So I was really happy about it. I can't for the life of me figure out wrestlers who don't want other people paying tribute to them, don't want their moves used on TV. I'll never figure that out. I think it's the sincerest, it's most
Yeah.
sincere form of flattery. And I'm glad that it was, accepted and loved by the fans, and also really glad that the announcers treated it as something special. Because I remember there was a time when Bad News Barrett, yeah, he did the bang bang Cactus Jack and dropped an elbow, and the announcers didn't they
Right.
didn't
Didn't
mention.
tell the fan what it was. Yeah.
And I'm actually watching this on the monitor at a WWE event, and I yell out, "I'm in your Hall of Fame!" Like the fans are chanting my name. Why are you not acknowledging it? I don't know if that was a personal rib or not, but it certainly feels better when everyone wants to be acknowledged. So I love
Yeah.
it when people do that. And Chelsea's such a hard worker and so dedicated to her character that I was really proud and very happy to see it.